might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Alrighty. Welcome to the show. I just realized that my microphone wasn't on for the last 2 minutes. That's what I get for not having anybody in the studio with me today. Well, welcome to the show. It's a beautiful morning. This is Mornings with Mike. My name is Mike Hewlett. Thank you so much for tuning in to KTMP 1340 this morning. Hope you're having a great day. If you're out driving, looks like the commute is going to be pretty reasonable. There are no accidents or problems in either of the canyons to report, so looks like everything should be fine there. Very excited about the show today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. My guest today is actually going to be calling in, so he's not going to be here in the studio with me, but so we'll see how that goes. It'll be the first time I take a phone call on the air, so we'll see if I can get that right. But it's gonna be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. My our guest is Jason Hewlett, and he is a professional entertainer. He's very fascinating. Has a lot of incredible things to say. He's really funny. He's actually my first cousin, but that's sort of where the similarities end. He's very entertaining and very funny, and has performed all over the world. He does a lot of corporate events, and does a lot of motivational speaking as well to church groups and various things like that. So, yeah, really looking forward to having him on. So hopefully I can get the phone thing figured out and make sure we do it the right way. So, couple of things we want to talk about this morning. Let's see. I guess we'll just talk about the weather because that's always fascinating. We got a 20% chance of thunderstorms throughout the day. Same deal tomorrow. But it looks like the chances are going to start to go up this weekend. We might actually even see some snow because it's May and it snows in May here, unfortunately. But yeah, so we're going to have a high of 56 today. It's going to stay in the high 50s all through the week, all through the weekend. Memorial Day weekend is going to be a little bit of a, I don't know. I mean, we might get lucky, but our forecast isn't looking too wonderful. But the lows are not getting down to the freezing temperatures anymore. So that's one thing to look forward to. Looks like we're getting pretty close to being able to plant gardens and plant flowers without them all freezing to death. So that, yeah, slight chance of thunderstorms and rain and then eventually snow on the weekend, all throughout the week. So, but it's beautiful right now. Not very many clouds in the sky. The sky is beautiful and blue, and so enjoy it while it's out there. So last night was the NBA draft lottery. It used to be in the NBA that whoever had the worst record got the first pick, and then they just went based off of that. If you had the worst record, you got the number one pick in the draft, and then if you had the second worst record, you got the next one, and so on and so forth. And I think mostly to a degree they realized that teams would purposefully lose the whole previous season to get the opportunity to pick the first pick in the draft. So they eventually changed that system about I think it was about 25 years ago or so, and changed that system to a weighted draft, and they started this whole lottery system. And basically, what the lottery does is, if you have the worst record, you get the most ping pong balls in the lottery machine. And then if you have, the second worst record, you get the second most, and so on and so forth. And then they have all the averages out. They know based on how many ping pong balls they're in there with your name on it, that they have the percentages, the opportunity to, what the chances are that you're going to get the number one pick. I don't know how to really feel about this. Me personally, I grew up a huge Jazz fan. I lived and breathed the NBA. I really enjoyed growing up watching Karl Malone and John Stockton do their thing, and that was really a great thing for a kid to have kind of sports heroes like that so close to home, and got to see them play so many different times, and it was just such a great experience for me. But there were always these lingering kind of things that you would hear that, this referee doesn't like us, or that referee, or the league doesn't like the Jazz because they won't play on Sunday, and or they won't have a home game on Sunday, and they always have to play on Monday nights, and all these different things, and so I started to kind of feel like there were maybe, that the league wasn't just left to chance, that it wasn't just teams competing and whoever had the best team won the game. And then the more I learned about the league and the more I learned about the rules and everything, I started to see more and more discrepancies, and then of course culminating with the NBA Finals when Michael Jordan shoved Brian Russell out of the way so he could get a clear shot, and ended up winning the championship again, and for no one to call that, it was just like, wow, what's going on here? And then of course, a few years ago we got Tim Donaghy, who was caught basically gambling on the games that he was officiating in, and not even eventually the story came out and we all heard about it, and all of a sudden it was it was this big thing that one of the referees was gambling on the games. Well, it turns out that he only gambled on maybe 2 or 3 of the games that he actually refereed, but he gambled on a lot of the other games that he had no part in, and he had a success rate of it was in the 90s, the 90%, over 90% success in his picks, and ultimately, I mean, where he really got caught up was he had made a couple of bets, I think, by himself, and then all of a sudden the mafia got wind of it, and so they kind of roped him in and said, hey, we know what you're doing, we know you have inside information into this, so you got to start letting us know who to bet on. And just based on who was playing and who was refereeing, who was officiating the games, Donaghy could pick who was going to win the game almost perfectly. He knew before they played who was going to win the game based on the matchup and based on the referees that were officiating. That doesn't lead to a lot of credibility with the league that he could pick it with such great accuracy. So he anyway, so things like that just keep coming up, and then this whole mess with LeBron James leaving Cleveland to go to Miami and create this super all-star team by themselves, seemingly. Ever since then, since LeBron left Cleveland, now granted, they have not been a very good team. And granted, they have made some poor choices with their draft picks, but 3 out of the last 4 years, and now 2 years in a row, Cleveland has gotten the first pick in the NBA draft. And I personally am just not buying it. I don't buy the legitimacy there. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people think that sounds silly, and I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you have to keep in mind that the NBA is a business, and they are trying to make money, and so they're doing that by putting out the best show they can, and I don't know. So anyway, the Jazz had the 4th pick. They had a 10% chance, over 10% chance of getting the number 1 pick. I don't think many of us thought that they would get the number 1 pick, but we hoped that they would at least move up a couple of spots maybe. And turns out Cleveland, with a 1% chance of getting the first pick, got the first pick. And the chance of them getting the first pick 3 out of 4 years is 0.0001% or something like that. So astronomically impossible odds, and they did it anyway. So I guess I'll let you guys make your own conclusions there, but I don't buy it. All right, so the Bees game yesterday ended with a brawl in the dugout, and one of the players ended up getting his ear bitten. So not quite sure exactly what happened there, but fight broke out in the visiting team's dugout, and one of the players got his ear bitten, and had to go to the hospital for that. So must have been an exciting day at the Bees game. All right, so hopefully we'll have our guest be calling in here in just a minute, but just wanted to remind everybody that well, let's see. Okay, we're gonna see if we can get this to work out. All right. Hello, you there? Hello, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
All right. Not fantastically well. Talk to me again a little bit.
Right now, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but it's not coming in very strongly. You're not on speaker or anything, are you?
No, let me see if I can try a different audio source. Let's see here.
That's about the same. Hold on, talk again.
Check 1, 2. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, that might be as good as we're gonna get.
Okay.
Won't let me turn up the telephone volume any more than that. All right, well.
Do you think I need to talk loudly?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, welcome to the show, Jason. Thanks so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about your show, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're having a good time with it. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully, my listeners are enjoying it as well. And
how can I not enjoy Mike Hewlett? Come on.
I don't know. I know there are a few people out there that don't. So
that means you're doing something right.
I guess. Well, thank you again for being on the show. So tell us. Just to kind of give people a little bit of an introduction, essentially you are a professional entertainer. You have a show that you put on. You do a lot of corporate events. Your show is a lot of comedy. It's a lot of music. You do a lot of different impressions and things. The sad thing is so many of the things that you do are so visual, so we can't really get that across to our radio listeners, but people will really have to go check out your stuff on jasonhewlett.com and see some of his videos on YouTube and things like that, because the facial expressions and your rubber face that you have so much control over is really something something to behold. So, but you've been doing this for quite a while now, and you've had quite a bit of success performing. So, tell us just a little bit more about exactly what it is you do and how you got into it.
I started when I was quite young. My first show was third grade, is what I normally tell people.
Sure.
And I began in Park City. That's where I grew up. And I found out that I was the weird kid the first day of school. And I could certainly share that story, but I make my living, like you said, as a corporate entertainer. And a lot of people don't know anything about that industry. When I say corporate entertainer, people are confused that you can make a living doing that. What I do is whenever a corporation has an event, whether it's a holiday party or it's an annual convention, maybe an award ceremony, even their top salespeople might have an incentive trip. I'm that guy that they bring in to make sure that they have an enjoyable evening of entertainment mixed with music and comedy that's family appropriate. So my niche that I've carved out is that I'm the Utah answer to Las Vegas quality entertainment that's G-rated.
Right, and that's a huge part of it.
It's a small niche, but it's a very huge business because there's very few people in the whole world that says I'm a G-rated performer and I am able to do a Las Vegas show the same as I could do at a LDS Cultural Hall or
right.
at your annual Christmas party with a bunch of kids running around. So I've found a cool niche, and that's really worked out well.
That's great. I mean, that really is a huge part of it. I've been to a number of these corporate events over the years and have seen various entertainment and a lot of times the quality isn't fantastic, but you can expect to if it's a comedian, you can expect to hear some really inappropriate things sometimes and some bad language and some bad content and things like that, and it's just you just kind of shake your head and go, why was that necessary? And so I think these events that are looking for somebody that's not gonna do stuff like that, that's I can see the demand there for sure.
Yeah, and with my audience, my clientele, a majority of them are from Utah. And I did that on purpose because I want to live in Utah. I grew up in Park City, and now I live in Daybreak in South Jordan. And I want to be here as much as I can so I can be by my family and live in this beautiful state that I love more than any state. And at the same time, I can travel a little bit, and the demand is high for me in the corporate market. It's been pretty cool. And so I get to travel all over the world doing this. Oftentimes people come up after a show, even after I've received a standing ovation or two, and they'll come up and say, "So what do you do for a living?" And I go, "Thank you very much. I have a llama farm, What do you tell people? I don't know how more to prove what I just did is worth being paid for, but I've been fortunate enough to make a very healthy living for about a decade now as the Utah guy, and any conventions that come into Utah that are usually the largest conventions, I've been fortunate to be that person at those conventions. Say we want to have the best entertainment we can find in the state, and for some reason a lot of these companies are referring me to do that. So that's a great compliment. And then they have me back over and over and over, and so it makes it really cool. But carving out the niche is an important thing for me, and trying to keep to my values. That's if I understand kind of the format of what you're doing here, it's about knowing our community values and making sure that we stand strong, stick firm. I've turned a huge opportunity away years ago in Las Vegas in order to be here in Utah and do not only corporations, but also school engagements where I go and speak to kids, discover their strengths and how to be themselves rather than allow the world to dictate who they are. And it's worked out to be a cool career, you know.
Yeah, no, it really is incredible. I mean, so obviously I grew up with you, and we all knew you were a little different. Um, you know, I mean, you were performing for us for years, and you know, and you developed some fun little things that you used to do just for the family. But you know, when you struck out to be you know, to entertain professionally, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I had my doubts. You know, I just thought, you know, hey, Jason's a great guy and he's funny, but you know, that industry, I mean, to actually make a living at entertaining, to make a living at being funny, that just seems like a 1,000,000 to 1 shot, or even less. You know, I mean, just
Yeah.
it just seems like nearly impossible. And then of course you got married, and you know, right after you got married, you know, it seems like that was kind of your first professional foray. What was your first gig there?
So before I tell too much about me, I want your audience to also understand that you're one of the great singer, piano players, guitarists. I mean, your audience may not realize your multiple talents as well, Mike. I mean,
Come on, I'm a hack.
Mike is amazing at this. He and I have actually performed together way back in the day, and so yeah, man. I mean, I think it's something in our blood if we go way back. But you know, my first real gigs all came about from up in that region in the Heber area. My first gig was for our cousin. Her name is Melanie Goetz. Now she's Melanie Sharp, and she was the queen at the Camas Fiesta Days.
Okay.
And she asked me to do 10 minutes in between them tallying the votes, and I prepared my darndest for that moment.
Yeah.
And I believe, if I recall, I got a standing ovation after my 10 minutes that I killed myself to prepare. It was really just putting together all this goofy stuff you and I grew up seeing me do.
Sure.
And then after that, they came out and said, "We want you to do another 10." And I had nothing prepared.
Sorry, I got nothing for you.
That was my first gig. That was June 30th, 2000.
There you go.
So for the next year, I spent just holding my trap, figuring out what to do, and performing for every free opportunity I could get.
Right.
And I got married in that time. I got married in June of 2001. And within that span, I went from beauty pageants and blue and gold dinners for Cub Scouts, doing LDS firesides, to girls' camps, all up in that area. And
Yeah.
Up in Heber and Camas, Park City, doing the Summit County Fair, the Wasatch stuff. I mean, I was kind of everywhere, and doing fundraisers and all that stuff. Next thing I know, I'm flying on a private jet to Las Vegas to meet with the owner of a company called Legends in Concert, and I got to be Ricky Martin for him and his company.
That was so great.
A big deal, you know?
Yeah, you know, I'll never forget that, seeing you all decked out in Ricky Martin garb, and you know, with the hair and the tan and everything, and that was hilarious.
I looked the part, I sounded the part, I figured out the moves, and I somehow landed this gig. So I went from making $0 literally and convincing this beautiful woman, Tammy, to marry me, and saying I'm going to have a great career, but we didn't know what it meant. And so I got this gig, and the next thing I know, I'm making about $1,200 a week doing, you know, 10 minutes worth of work a night as Ricky Martin, the performer. And we moved out to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We went to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. We just kind of traveled all over with this Las Vegas-based impersonator troupe. And that was the beginning. I became Elton John for them after about 6 months. I worked on that. So I would open the show as Elton and come back a couple characters later after other people would go, and I'd be Ricky Martin later in the show. Nobody knew it was the same guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were pretty well decked out as Elton. I still think that's one of my favorite characters that you have done is the Elton John. You got all the crazy garb that he would put on in the 70s, and the crazy glasses and all that.
Yeah, my wife spent hours upon hours doing homework research and then making these costumes for me, and we had a great time. And I was able to make a living being an impersonator of other people for a good year, and then we decided we wanted to see if I could branch out and do a one-man show for corporations, and potentially become a headliner in Las Vegas with all of my crazy stuff, with the faces and the Jim Carrey and all the voices that I could do, which were over 100, and so we went for it. We left this great job and went back to zero and had no money, no gigs, and I just started hitting it, trying to make a gig happen as the one-man entertainer.
Sure.
And so yeah, within 2 years of that decision, I was back in Las Vegas, receiving an offer to be at a casino, and it was a very big offer. It would have changed our life forever, but the one stipulation that kept me from that, and I don't know if you know this story, Mike, but I had the casino owner in the contract tell me that I had to be controlled by them as far as my content, that I had to change everything that I had worked for as far as a G-rated entertainer and make it a little bit more spicy, even if it was simply PG-13.
Right, yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah, and I said, well, Donnie and Marie don't need to do that, and they said, well, Donnie and Marie are famous. They
right.
can be whoever they want. We need to mold you into this person that people will want to come see, and you have to be adult-friendly. We don't care about kid-friendly. And I said, well, I mean, that's the legacy I'm going to leave, is being a kid-friendly entertainer. I want families to enjoy this together. And we didn't have much of an argument as much as we had a disagreement that would not work. And I turned the contract away, and I walked away from, a lot of money, a lot of fame potential, and that was actually 10 years ago, in March 2004. So, sometimes I'll drive through Vegas at the corporate shows or when I'm speaking to kids, and I'll look at all the billboards and I think, man, I guess that could have been me up there. And then I look at the guys that are up there and I think, well, I know what they had to do to make that happen, and I'm grateful that I stuck with my guns. And I can at least now share that story, and hopefully it'll keep some kids from making a dumb choice and, continuing to do what they've been raised with, or deciding to live for something greater than simply the paycheck. And so that became my, kind of my big story. And that's why a lot of corporations start to hire me, because they said, this is a guy who's as good as anybody in Vegas, but he's available at an affordable price and he's G-rated. We have to have him. And that became my market. And, I've been lucky ever since, I guess.
Well, yeah, sometimes, you have these good things that happen to you, but for the most part, I believe that you create your own luck, and I know how hard you've worked to get there. So it is really incredible, though, that you've been able to establish yourself the way you have. Tell us about some of the fun places that you've been throughout the world. What are some of the neat places you've been able to go and entertain?
Well, outside of performing at the Zermatt 2 weeks ago for the Intermountain Healthcare Group, which is one of my favorite places in the world in Midway and Heber area, I've performed all over the place. I mean, 2 years ago I was in Denmark and Sweden, where I got to be the master of ceremonies and the of entertainment for a large multi-level marketing group. I performed years ago at an event in Mexico, in Cabo San Lucas, on the beach for a bunch of sales executives who won an incentive trip. That was a pretty cool gig with the ocean behind me as I'm singing and the piano. It was so cool.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I had a guy come up to me a couple of years ago in Nashville, and he said, at one of these events, he said, "Do you do weddings?" And I said, "I haven't done a wedding in 8 years, and no, I don't." And he said, "Oh, well, I have a wedding in Paris, and I'd like you to perform at it."
Yes, I do weddings.
And yeah, I was like, "Okay, what time do you need me?" You know?
Yeah.
And so he flew Tammy and I out there for a week, or 10 days, paid for all these accommodations, gave me a great fee, and I did 30 minutes in between the DJ from L.A. that he flew in and the fireworks and the fire dancers from the Barbados. I mean, it was surreal. It was on this beautiful estate at a castle in the south of France.
Wow.
So I've had a lot of fun, amazing gigs that way. Just gotten to perform all over. I haven't made it out to your old stomping grounds yet in the Japan area, but I'm hoping to figure. I just bought Rosetta Stone for Japanese and Spanish, so I'm hoping that that'll open the horizons for more opportunities, because I do so much Master of Ceremonies work where I'm saying the names of a Japanese person and then a Spanish person.
Right.
And, you know, I need to figure that language out at least enough to get by for those award ceremonies.
Sure.
So yeah, I've been all over, man. It's been awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. So now, for those who have never had an experience like that, to go to one of these corporate events and see some of the different entertainers, you've entertained with some pretty incredible groups, you know, in the kind of the same realm. Tell us about some of the other acts that we would recognize that have performed basically on the same stage with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, this would probably be more geared toward the the older listener. They would know these people rather than the younger. But I've had an opportunity through the years to perform with the Righteous Brothers, with the Temptations, Nikki Gilly, Vince Gill, Macy Gray from the I guess she's more of the '90s era, but and today. But yeah, I've been on the stage with a lot of cool people. Probably the best compliment I ever got. A couple of them, Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers. I opened for him at the Sandy Amphitheater in Sandy, Utah, and he came out after I was done and he said, "Well, why the heck did you guys have me come out? We should have just had Jason Hewlett do the rest of the show as me." And that was cool, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I was opening for the Temptations, during sound check, I was doing one of their impressions, one of their songs, "Papa Was a Rolling Stone," and their manager came out and started yelling at me, and I stopped and I said, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "You can't do that song. You sound too much like them." and so that was cool.
That's great.
But yeah, I'm not sure if your audience would know of a fellow named Dan Tominski. They may not know his name, but they would probably recognize his voice. He's the guy that did the voice for "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," the movie with George Clooney.
Oh, sure.
Of all the bluegrass music, you know. In the hand of constant sorrow.
Sure.
And so I opened for him, and he came out and he said, "Well, I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. I'm going to fire my manager for making me come out after Alvin and the Chipmunks."
You do a pretty good Alvin.
Well, that was like my first. Most people don't realize that was my first big song for my career. That was the first paycheck I ever made. Was a gig down at the Grand America Hotel. They hired me to do 10 minutes. And they were going to give me $100, and this was like my first paid gig. I was so excited.
Sure.
Prepared all this stuff, and I showed up, and they were running late. and they said, we only have time for you to do one song. What will it be? And I said, well, I'll just do the Chipmunk song. It was a holiday party. And so I stood up there and I did, the, let's see if I can eke it out this early morning. Here we go.
There you go.
And the people are laughing, and it was only a minute long.
Sure.
But I did this, and they paid me $100 for a song. And I thought,
that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, corporate holiday parties. I think they can do these. You know? And so, that was pretty neat to have that happen. And so anyway, I've had the chance to open with a lot of these people, and they're not all the time very nice, and before my act, and sometimes they're even not nice after. And one of my hopes is that when people have opened for me and I've helped them get an opportunity, my goal is to make them feel comfortable and that they did a great job, and actually try to mentor them a little bit. Because I had people for years, that I would ask if I could open for them, and they'd say no. And then there were others that helped me, like John Schmidt, who your audience probably knows in the Piano Guys fame.
Uh-huh.
And he had me open for him a bunch of times. Earl Bailey of the Utah Jazz fame, who's a great singer and speaker. He and I have shared the stage plenty of times. So, then there are those local celebrities who are just the cream of the crop. They're the nicest people. They're fun, and they're celebrity, and they're helpful, and my friends forever, So that's what's cool to say. Yeah, I opened for some of these big names that you've probably heard of, but, locally there are some celebrities in my mind that are even more awesome.
For sure. Yeah, celebrity is what we deem it to be. I mean, there are certainly people in my life that I would consider a much greater opportunity to meet and converse with. Much more celebrity than. I would never care to meet a Kardashian or really any reality TV star.
Yeah.
That's hardly celebrity in my eyes, but celebrity is certainly what we make of it. But
one of the things, Mike, I do have a cool story about.
Oh, please.
About a really cool celebrity. I grew up at Jeremy Ranch Golf Course there in Park City, and one of my favorites was Jack Nicklaus.
Sure.
And he's, the greatest golfer of all time. And I stood up on this one stage at the Grand America for a gig with Johnny Miller, and there was the top golfers of all time sitting in that audience. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And Jack Nicklaus was on the front row. And, I stood up there, did my best 30 minutes or however long I had, and Jack actually started my standing ovation and stepped about 4 steps forward and shook my hand on stage and pulled me in and said, best entertainment I think I've ever seen. And it gave me a hug, and that kind of thing where it's somebody you grew up watching and thinking how cool would it be to be so good at something like that someday. To have somebody who's really perfected their craft say you're pretty darn good. That was really a special moment. So, sometimes those celebrity things can be really cool for us to, validate something we've worked for if they can also recognize you. That was a really neat experience, and there have been others, but that was one that stands out.
Oh, that's I can't imagine. I mean, being able to meet Jack, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind, share with us some of the stuff that you talk about with your, with the groups that you talk to, the inspirational stuff. I mean, do you have a couple of stories or life lessons maybe you can share with us that you talk to youth groups or that kind of situation?
Yeah, certainly. I get to go around to schools, and that's by design. Sometimes people say, well, why are you doing schools if you could be performing for millions of dollars? And I say, because this is my passion. I mean, teaching kids at a young age to get past that thought that they're no good, even if they're weird or different, which pretty much everybody is weird.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, we try to conform to some kind of normalcy that makes it so that the world is not as colorful as a place, because we all try to be like each other. And what's funny about this whole concept of me doing this is that I'm an impressionist doing other people's voices, and yet I'm telling people to do their own. And, and it really works out nicely as a teaching tool, because I can actually point out the signature move of somebody. And I call it a signature move because I think everyone has one. You know, you have one, Mike. I mean, my family, all my children have one, at least one, if not many. And we find those out when we're kids. We find them out usually because we're made fun of it. People say we're a nerd because we love, you know, reading all the time, and we end up, hopefully those readers end up becoming something in that literary field. And others might be nerds or weird because they like to do math or something else, and they hopefully become either an accountant or an engineer. And for me, school made no sense, and so I share that with the kids. School was tough for me. I was nearly held back every year until my 9th grade year, when I was finally held back. But I found out that as a kid, I was able to make people laugh.
Sure.
And that meant I was making silly faces. That meant I was doing funny voices. I grew up trying to do the voices of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy, and it drove my teachers crazy. They didn't know how to control this. So
No, nobody does.
No, the teacher's back would be turned, and I'd be like Mickey Mouse, like, hi everybody, Mickey Mouse here, you know, and ruin the teacher's day, or you know, like Donald Duck, you know, and then like, Robert. So I could make people laugh, but it kind of messed up what I was supposed to be doing, and people were trying to pigeonhole me into this person that I couldn't be.
Sure.
And what was fortunate for me is that I had parents that actually encouraged my talent development in that area. I'm an artist. I'm a music man. I'm an entertainer, and they recognize that. I think subliminally more so than actually. My dad wanted me to be an insurance salesman, and which I could have easily been and was planning on it, but he
don't
see the light,
don't knock this profession. It's incredibly difficult.
Well, and I think I could have done it, but I would have.
Of course you could. Of course you could.
You know?
No, of course you could.
Because it's like
it's all about relationships.
It's all about relationships. It's about knowing your product, and you know, I mean, I'm so grateful for you as my insurance man, because I mean, I know that you know what's best for what my family needs and I need. And that's made all the difference, because I say, oh, well, let's just call Mike, make sure we have everything set.
I appreciate that.
That's a cool thing, rather than me trying to figure it out or trying to do something with a stranger that I don't know. And so, I could have done the profession, and I thought I was going into it. But luckily, my dad, he saw that I was good at something else. He started to say, hey, you know, let's try and see if we can get this rolling. So I had supportive parents, even though they kind of wanted me to go maybe another direction. It turned out okay. But I tell the kids that it's important to discover your voice. The best way to discover our voice is to actually open our mouth. And the way that I illustrate this is with my huge mouth. And obviously your listeners can't see this thing.
Yeah, they definitely need to go to jasonhewlett.com and watch some of your videos. It's pretty remarkable.
So, yeah, I mean, I have this crazy huge mouth, and I make fun of it, and the kids giggle. And then I found out from my dentist, who pointed out that I had this ability to control my muscles in my face. So the next thing I know, I'm figuring out how to move everything on my face, from my lips to my nose, and yeah, I'm making people laugh, and that's all I was good at as a kid. And so I encourage the kids to say to themselves, what makes me feel the best about myself? What makes me different? And that's okay to be different. And I encourage them to sing in the hall. The reason I share that story is because I was walking down the hall as a kid in high school, and I was singing out loud. I was just kind of, doing my thing. And all of a sudden this lady burst out of the classroom, and her name was Mrs. Hall, and she burst out and goes, "Who's singing in the hall? Who's singing in the hall?" And this was before
Gotta love choir
or
teachers.
anything,
Sure.
And she said, "Why aren't you in the choir?" She was this lady from Wales, so she had an accent.
That's great.
And I said, "I'm not a singer." And she said, "Yes, you are. Come into my classroom." And so I go into her classroom, and she makes me sing for her as kind of an awkward situation. But I guess I went there. I said to myself, okay, she thinks I can sing. Well, I'll prove that I can't. And I did my Alvin and the Chipmunks. I did Louis Armstrong. And she goes, "Oh, you have a voice, even in other people's voices,
Yeah.
And she pulled me out of every class she felt I didn't need. And next thing I know, I'm in men's choir and mixed choir and starting a quartet and women's choir, for 2 days, but it was cool.
You could do it. You could do it.
And we tried everything to expand my voice and to find out what I could and couldn't do with it. And I'll tell you, Mike, she changed my whole life because she saw something good in me. And luckily, I had a great teacher like that. So when I'm speaking to the kids, I'm really speaking also to the teachers. Like, don't give up on the kid that's ruining your class. Don't give up on those kids that aren't getting the academic side, because potentially they might be speaking to you someday. And the kids are sitting there laughing their heads off, not realizing they're learning about how they can break through those limiting beliefs that we so often place upon ourselves and say we can't do it, and that we have to just get out of our head and get into our heart and go for it. And so that's my passion, man, talking to kids. Last year I spoke to, I'm still trying to figure out the exact number, but it was around 250,000 kids last year, all over the country.
Wow.
Leadership groups of 10,000 at a time to elementary schools at 300 at a time. So, I mean, I did a lot of gigs last year for kids. It was awesome.
Honestly, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you get up in front of a large group like that, and and not just have your mouth run completely dry. I'm here on the radio, and I don't know how many people are listening to me, but they're not right in front of me, so I can just sit here and chatter on like I'm just on the phone with a good friend of mine. But yeah, I get up in front of 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people, and man, my mouth goes dry like that, and I just can't hardly spit anything out. I don't know how you do it, man.
Well, here's what I tell people: if you've ever seen a bad speaker, which we pretty much all have,
right?
You have to realize that the audience does not want to see somebody fail on stage.
Right.
We just don't. We just naturally cheer people on. Like, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Like, if the microphone goes out, you know that everybody's kind of looking around like, should I go up there and help them? I mean, and that's how the audience feels. So for anybody that's ever wondering, or concerned or scared to go up on a stage, I just say, everyone wants you to do great. So just go out there and be your best and be great. And one of the most important parts of that is to be vulnerable and to be authentic. If we're not just putting on airs that we're perfect and we can do everything, that's a lot more appealing to see somebody standing up there sharing their warts. I mean, people want to relate to us with our warts rather than seeing this fake person.
Right.
And so yeah, that's some little performance tips, I guess, that are very obvious, but some people still talk themselves out of it, you know.
Sure.
Going on stage, but through the years, man, I've learned performing for millions of people that the audience is generous generally, and I sometimes have to draw it out of them, whether it's through a whole bunch of comedy up front or telling a story. Sometimes they just want to be inspired. Sometimes they just want to laugh until they're hurt, and other times they just want to listen to a song that they love, and just lay back and relax. So I'm happy to do whatever it takes to make them laugh, as long as it falls within the realm of what I've established for myself and my values. Because years ago, I learned that lesson the hard way. I stood up on a stage at BYU, and I was in a singing contest with all these other kids. We were vying for a scholarship, or not a scholarship, but a record deal. And I was so excited to win this record deal, and everybody was singing and amazing. This is when I was, I think, 17 or 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
And these kids are singing their hearts out, and I thought, I'm going to be different. I'm going to just dance. And as you know, I worked probably for about 5 years straight on my Michael Jackson impression. That really turned out amazing.
Oh, yeah. No, it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I didn't work so much on his singing as I did on the dancing. So for this singing contest, like The Voice, I stood up, and instead of singing, I just danced. And as I'm dancing on this BYU stage filled with, you know, an audience of Mormon Latter-day Saint people, conservative as can be, I did a couple of Michael Jackson's most famous moves, and I'm not talking about the moonwalk.
Right. Yeah.
I'm talking about the inappropriate ones, and
Sure.
I did them as a kid on that stage, and the crowd went crazy. They loved it. And I thought, oh, they like that, so I did it more. And they cheered, and they loved me for about 4 minutes, and at the end, I did a spin. And instead of just ending it, like, with my arms out going, ah! I spun, and I ripped my shirt off and fell to my knees. And they all, you know, standing ovation, people are high-fiving me. I came off stage, and I was like, I won the contest without singing, you know. And I came off stage, and the director of the camp said, you're disqualified. And I said, why? I just won the contest. He said, no, that was inappropriate.
Uh-huh.
You know better than that. And the reason I share that is because how often do we conform to what other people maybe are saying, even in a private conversation?
Sure.
When we can stand up for what we know is right. How often do we, you know, it doesn't mean that we're completely dishonest, but if something in business, like somebody sends you a referral or something where you have a commission basis that might be happening back and forth with somebody, are you honest in that dealing?
Right.
How often with our children, as we're just trying our best to raise them and say, hey, don't listen to that music, or don't text while you're driving, and yet we're doing it. You know, I mean, that's the sort of story where it's like, who are you really? And
Yeah.
what makes you different? What do you stand for? And that guy really made me think. And it was in that moment that he told me I was disqualified for doing what I did on his stage that I said, okay, from now on, I'm the family-friendly performer.
Oh, absolutely.
And that made my career.
No, that's great. That's a great story. Well, Jason, thank you again so much for being on with us. For the listeners, if you're just tuning in, this has been Jason Hewlett, if you tuned in halfway through or whatever. Jason Hewlett, the entertainer. Now, you have a DVD out. that you just released, right?
Yeah, I've been working on this thing for 2 years to get it ready to release. It's my full show, which I've been putting together my whole life. I performed this show from 2000 to 2013.
Wow.
And now it's available on DVD for families to watch and enjoy together. It's got if you know who I am, it's got the Jim Carrey subway impression, my Velociraptor.
that was one of the first ones
Yeah.
that you did.
It's got Michael Jackson, the G-rated version. It's got, Motown, all this fun, Bee Gees, Elton John, Billy Joel. So it's a great DVD, and it's an amazing family night for families. We priced it at $39.95 retail, and I just thought it would be cool to come on this show and offer it to your audience for half off. We could do all they have to do is go to jasonhewlett.com. On the top of the tab there is it says buy the DVD. Click on that. Once you go to the store, it'll allow you to opt in a coupon code. And the coupon code, it'll be good through May for the audience that are listening.
That's great.
Just type in JHE, as in Jason Hewlett Entertainment, JHE May. And that's just all capitalized, JHE May. And that'll be the coupon code if they want to get it half off through May. And I hope they'll enjoy it on behalf of Mornings with Mike.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate that. Yeah, everybody needs to go on to jasonhewlett.com, watch some of those videos, see the greatness that he has to offer, and then jump on that opportunity. I guarantee your family will really enjoy it, and it'll be something you can share with everybody, and it's not something you ever have to blush over or hide anybody's eyes from. You never have to have that. You never have to say, "Oh, it's great," except for this one spot. Watch out for this one part where he says this or where he does that or whatever. There's none of that. It's not something like that at all. So we really appreciate you doing that. Really make sure you take advantage of that. That's a great opportunity to get to experience all the fun that Jason Hewlett has to offer. So thank you again so much, Jason, for being on the show today. We really, really appreciate it. And good luck as you continue to do such good work and spread a good, positive message and entertain people without getting dirty or inappropriate or anything like that. So
thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me on the show, and I'm thrilled with your success. You've been amazing, not only as a great cousin and friend, but as an insurance, advisor and everything to us. We love you and appreciate you in our family. So,
well, I think
congrats on the show.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Alrighty, well, that was Jason Hewlett. Make sure you take advantage of that. That's great. So the coupon code again is JHEMAY in the coupon code there. So go get that for your family or make a great gift or something like that. So anyway, thanks so much for being with us today. This has been Mornings with Mike. My name is Mike Hewlett, and you've been listening to KTMP 1340, and we really appreciate you tuning in. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next Monday. Take care.